Hi, Jeff Underwood. Great to have you. Thanks for being here.
Luisa Chiquito, nice to see you. Long time no see.
We have our innovators on screen with us, which is great. And they are jumping in the chat box to welcome some guests that might be new to Social Innovation Forum and came from, their invitation. So we're thrilled to have them with us.
In the S's, welcome to Steve Siegel and to Sylvia Haber. Thanks both for your involvement. Veronica Serrato, nice to spot you as well.
Hi, Dan Minich. Thanks for being here. Anna Gross, thank you for being here. Get to see you twice this week.
Jeffrey Underwood. Greetings. There's our friend Amy Rands as well. Welcome. Anita Sharma, another past innovator. Happy to have you in the room.
Sam Acevedo, thank you for being here to cheer on your cohort. Welcome, everyone. Hi, Brianna. Great to have you.
I think we'll leave just another minute or two for the attendees, and then we'll get going for the attendees to get in the door.
Seeing lots of our track partners here. Thank you to Boston Open Impact and the Gross family. Appreciate you being here.
Caroline Hart, welcome. If you're just arriving, jot your name into the box, into the chat box, and so I think we'll get going. We know that many people will be arriving as we begin this. But before we begin the showcase, I want to share some thoughts from myself and the team. We've all been reflecting over these past days and want to acknowledge what a difficult set of weeks and months we've been experiencing as a community, locally, nationally, and internationally. We're in the midst of a global pandemic, one whose disproportionate impact on people of color has exposed how deeply the inequities in our society truly run. Today, the SIF team stands in solidarity with our friends in the Black community and the Black Lives Matter movement in expressing our grief and outrage at the violence perpetrated against Black people in our nation. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Eric Gardner, Philip White, Maya Hall, Tony Robinson, Anthony Hill, Frank Smart, and sadly, the list goes on and on and on. We acknowledge that we have way more work to do than just say those names. This is our moment to reflect on what is happening in our communities with Black people and police brutality, and to act. To the Black and brown folks in the audience today, the SIF team wants to let you know we are here for you and your families. We are listening and we are hurting. And we are making a way to stand with you towards greater social change. To the white folks in the audience, as we gather today to support social impact work, we recognize that we want to work with our community to uplift Black voices and create more spaces where people can peacefully coexist. In this social impact marketplace, we can hold ourselves and each other accountable for taking action by investing in Black-led nonprofit organizations and Black-led businesses, and financially supporting organizations who are on the front lines fighting for justice, and listening to and uplifting the voices of people of color, and by using our platforms and our voices to speak out against injustice. We cannot wait for things to settle down because the moment to act is now. Thank you. I'd like to take this tough transition and move us into the showcase and give you a general welcome to the Social Innovation Forum's 17th annual showcase. Certainly our first virtually, but the second half of our first virtual showcase. So we've been through it a little bit, but trust us, we're new in the virtual world, and we're glad that so many of you are here with us today. We're expecting about 300 people. We never envisioned that we'd be doing a showcase in this kind of a way. I'm Susan Musinski, Executive Director, and I'd like to run you through the brief agenda of what the day will look like. I'm going to give a quick overview, tell you a little bit about the Social Innovation Forum, then you'll have a chance to hear from our 4 amazing and really interesting organizations: Origination Cultural Arts Center, Adaptive Sports New England, Vital Village Networks, and PAARI, Police Assisted Addiction and Recovery Initiative. And then we'll move into a question and answer session. And you'll have an opportunity to participate in asking all sorts of questions and hearing from our innovators about the work that they're doing. But before we get going, I want to give you some Zoom webinar pieces. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see that there's a closed captioning button. We also have a chat box. Many of you have already entered the chat box to share your name and your organization. We encourage you, while the innovators are presenting and between their presentations, to show your enthusiasm for them. Cheer them on, tell them something that you liked, put a highlight into that chat box. We also have a Q&A button, and the way we'd like you to use that is throughout the presentations, think of questions. What aren't they answering? What would you like to know more about? And put a few questions in the Q&A, and when we get to the later segment of the event, you'll have a chance to actually hear some responses from a range of the organizations. One more thing, if you need help or get locked out, RSVP at socialinnovationforum.org. Our team is standing by. A few thank yous for this event. Much like events that happen in person, the sponsors who we have worked with, some of them for many, many years, stood by us and have stayed as our partners. So to WBUR, who's our media partner, thank you. To Marcus Partners, Eastern Bank, Fidelity Charitable, the Gross Family, Goulston and Stores, Rynette, Nutter, First Republic Bank, Eaton Vance, and Delta Dental, a big thank you. We appreciate your partnership. And we have other partners as well. As each innovator gets introduced today, you'll hear a little bit more about who was sponsoring which different track. But we start out just a little over a year ago with partners on each of our social issue tracks. As we shifted from in-person to virtual, our track partners didn't blink an eye and stayed with us in our partnership. So to Boston Open Impact, to the Jacket Foundation, to the Inspire Boston Funder Collaborative, to the Wellington Management Foundation, to Schraff Charitable Trust, Mass Mutual Foundation, the Edith M. Ashley Fund at the Boston Foundation, a big and sincere thank you for being partners with us along this bumpy and changing road. Thank you there. And a little bit about the Social Innovation Forum. Some of you know us really well, and for some of you, this is the first time you're meeting us and seeing what our work is about. This is our visual model. And so half of our work is actually working with nonprofit innovators and entrepreneurs, much like the 4 you'll meet today, who are doing on-the-ground work in local communities. Many of them are small organizations. In order to get into our portfolio, your budget or the program budget has to be under $2 million. Most of these organizations are operating with very small staff, often 2 to 10 people, and they're really looking to be a partner to SIF to help figure out how to grow their work and grow their capacity. And then if you go to the other side of our model, the green side of our model, we have investors and supporters, much like all of you who are here today, who are in the work and are supporting many kinds of innovation in the local Boston community, and particularly small grassroots organizations, that people come to SIF and our forum to see who's doing really interesting work, who's so busy, who doesn't have time to go out and be meeting lots and lots of people. And so the showcase offers this kind of opportunity. And what we find is that many investors and supporters want to invest not only money, but time and resources and relationships and connections. And if you look in the middle of our model, it's the gearbox, and it's the way everything moves in together. And generally, you would all be in a room together, shaking hands, sometimes giving hugs. And what we're doing is we're bringing that marketplace online. And we, like many around town and many around the country and our world, are figuring out, what does it mean to be virtual and what does it mean to be in a marketplace? And so we hope that what will happen today is that there will be fostering of ideas and fostering of relationships. And we know over our 17-year history that we have moved over $40 million into small local groups. And we're excited to make these introductions and to make the links and be here today. And as a community and as nonprofits who are on the ground, these groups are working to navigate what we know are really turbulent times. Many of the leaders are working on issues that are quite similar to what they've been working on for the long haul, and they need support. They need support from funders who can respond with emergency funds, with flexible grants, sometimes with loosened reporting restrictions, and also with a listening ear. We also know that they need support from skilled volunteers who can provide critical knowledge and training and to step in and help out. And additionally, they need each other. They need cohort learning. They need people to talk to when the going gets tough and the times are difficult. And because of this, we know that SIF's work is more important now than ever. And so where you come in, what we'd like you to do is to help us with connecting. You're going to meet 4 organizations today who, as I say, have been doing and are going to continue to do work in proactive ways that really build the fabric of this community. They are here to meet new people. They want to share their messages, and they want to ask for your help and your partnership and your connections. And so we know we're supporting them for 2 full years until they enter our forever portfolio. And what we'd like you to do is to fill out these cards. They'll be on links in the chat box, and you'll get sent a link in the follow-up email. Tell them who you know. Tell them how you might want to be helped. Tell them what you might be thinking about. Tell them that you might be able to help them in some small way and you're not sure how. So what we're asking is your partnership. And in a time in our world that feels hopeless, when we look at our innovators and we look at the depth of community around this SIF marketplace, when we stand together, the strength of what we're doing around social justice is really built with connections from one another. And we need you, and we need us all to be working together. Thank you. And now, before we move into the presentation, I'd like to bring up Sarah Dingy, who is our program manager.
Included consulting, executive coaching, access to our in-kind partners, exposure to potential funders, and many more. This year is particularly unique. As we all know, we're in the midst of a global pandemic. We had to make many shifts and pivots in all of our work, and we are so grateful that our 2020 innovators continued with us and trusted our process and worked extra hard to be able to share their stories with all of you today. And today is not the end of the innovators' journey with us. They will keep on working with SIF for the next 18 months, and after that, they'll join our alumni network so we can continue supporting them in building their capacity, expanding their networks, and providing access to new resources, all in order to increase the impact of their work. So I'm excited to get us started today and introduce our first innovator, Origination Cultural Arts Center, on a track titled Advancing Arts Engagement, sponsored by the Jacket Foundation. Musao Dibinga was the founding managing director of the Origination Cultural Arts Center and became its executive director in 2018. She has a BA in International Relations and Economics from University of Pennsylvania and an MBA from Boston University. Additionally, she has 15 years of investment management experience and over 40 years of dance training, performance, and instruction. Welcome, Musao.
Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity. What happens to a young person who finds her voice, who knows that she belongs somewhere? Well, let me tell you my story. I emigrated from the Congo in 1967 with my family, and my siblings and I found it hard to merge these two worlds. We were constantly teased and bullied. The kids made fun of our names, our clothes, and our accents. It was hurtful. Then one day, a friend of mine invited me to her dance recital, and that was my aha moment. I saw how confident the kids looked on stage, and I wanted to be a part of that. Through discovering dance, my sisters and I found our voices. When you find your voice, it empowers you to believe that nothing is impossible. Research shows that the arts has a profound positive impact on a young person's academic performance, behaviors and attitudes, and aspirations for the future. However, low-income youth of color have far fewer opportunities. A recent study showed that 71% of Boston public school students stated that they wanted more arts, but only 9% of students participate in out-of-school programs. And 37% of Boston high schools still don't have arts programs. The social problem is the lack of arts opportunities for young people of color. We wanted to expose as many young people as we could to the arts so that they could feel what it's like to be empowered, to find their voices. In 1994, my sisters and I started Origination in the basement of the First Church of Roxbury in order to provide youth from Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan with a safe place where they could explore the arts through dance and eliminate the cost barrier of participation. The average cost to enroll at Origination is $650 per year. The average market rate starts at $1,800 per year. Every student at Origination is subsidized. We serve 1,500 students ranging in age from 2 to 18 annually through the following programs. The Performing Arts Academy provides classes in dance and taekwondo. The Professional Dance Division consists of 4 professional youth companies that are invited to participate through an audition process. Due to COVID-19, we had to transition these on-site programs to virtual classes. We have 2 dance intensives, one in the spring and one in the summer, and that gives an opportunity for students of any age a chance to work on their dance technique. The Community Outreach and Education Program delivers the Origination experience to high schools, middle schools, and we provide classes, dance classes, workshops, and performances. Our International Youth Tour is our cultural exchange program. Its purpose is to build a bridge between the youth here and their counterparts around the world. But at Origination, we are more than dance. Our students learn about their history, their culture, and the contributions of their ancestors to contemporary society. They also learn how to advocate for themselves and for issues that they care about. We serve by providing intense leadership training and engaging community service projects. In this slide, one of our young dancers transformed the dance studio into a free shopping experience for girls in foster care. We engage our young people in high quality and transformative arts programs that teach them marketable skills and life skills that help them navigate the challenges of transitioning from childhood to adulthood. Through our Learn, Serve, and Teach approach, our young people begin to think globally and to develop a vision of their lives that goes beyond their own beliefs and the beliefs of others who can't see their potential. Belen Perea is a great example of someone who had a vision for her life that was different than what society expected of her. She wanted to be a dancer at a young age. After overcoming several struggles, she graduated as valedictorian of her class and went off to college. But it was at that moment that she realized her true passion was dance. So she moved to New York and spent the next 2 years working hard and training hard to audition for and become a member of the American Alvin Ailey Dance Theater. Every year, Belen returned to talk to our young people about the importance of working hard and never giving up. But our goal is not just to produce professional dancers. We use the arts to enable our young people to find their voices, find their passion, and take control of their lives. Since 1994, we have engaged over 40,000 youth in arts programming, achieved a 94% retention rate, trained and hired 350 students, watched 90% of our young people attend a four-year college, and traveled abroad with over 100 students. Today, we serve 150 students on site. We have 2 full-time employees, 10 part-time instructors, and we generate 260 to increase our staffing, to increase the number of part-time instructors, to increase our revenue by 150%, and to redesign our storefront so that passersby can see that we are a vibrant cultural arts center located right across the street from Forest Hill Station. But in order to do that and to continue to transform the lives of young people like Belen, we need your help. We're asking that you make an investment in Origination today of $650,000 over the next 2 years. With your help, we can build sustainability, reach more youth and families, expand our arts programming, grow our network of supporters, and create more visibility for our dance and theater performances. We are at a pivotal moment in history today. And now more than ever, it's critical that our young people of color know what it feels like to be empowered, to know that they belong, and to know that their voices matter. With your help, we can continue to build a nation of these future leaders, one dancer at a time. Thank you so much for this opportunity again.
Musau, thank you so much for such an inspiring presentation. I know many are cheering and applauding for you at home right now. And I hope that we all soon can experience one of Origination's powerful performances in the very near future. And just a reminder that if folks in the audience have any questions for Musau, we'll have a Q&A session after the presentation. So add in your questions below and we'll use those in the discussion later. And if you want to show your support and give some shout outs to our innovators, feel free to use the chat function. Just make sure that it's directed to all panelists and attendees so everyone can see your comments. And now I'd like to introduce our second innovator, Adaptive Sports New England, on a track titled Supporting and Advancing Health of People with Disabilities, Their Families, and Caregivers, supported by the Edith M. Ashley Fund at the Boston Foundation. Joe Walsh is the founder and president of Adaptive Sports New England and the former managing director of the Paralympics for the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. He previously served as a director of the U.S. Ski and Snowboard Association and more recently as vice president of the International Blind Sports Federation. A native of Braintree and legally blind since childhood, Joe is a graduate of Dartmouth College and a Paralympic bronze medalist in cross-country skiing. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, Sarah. Well, skiing became my favorite sport. I started my career as a baseball player. Being legally blind, I was not very good, but I played for 7 seasons because I enjoyed being on the team and I love sports. Delmas loves sports too. And sports are good for him and his friends. They build strength and fitness, they promote health, and they teach valuable life lessons like teamwork, goal setting, and time management. And for me, as well as for other kids, standing in that batter's box or similar is a real exercise in building confidence and resilience. There are about 1,000 youth in Greater Boston who have a visual or mobility impairment. And we know from national statistics that 80% of them don't play sports. That's a rate double that of their peers who don't have disabilities. They don't play sports because the adults in their lives have never seen kids with similar disabilities playing sports. They don't play sports because coaches don't have the training and experience that can help them succeed. And they don't play because in any given city or town, there may only be 1 or 2 kids who have a visual or a mobility impairment. And so there's never any demand generated at the local level for sports. And that's where, for adaptive sports, and that's where sports are played. Adaptive Sports New England addresses these issues in 3 different ways. We have our sport club, our sport concierge, and our partnerships with like-minded organizations. Our sport club program aggregates demand. We invite youth from across Greater Boston to connect with some world-class coaching. Coaches like Michael Prout and Anna Johannes, both Paralympic medalists, rower Ali Riley, a world championship silver medalist, and Katrina Gerhardt, a 3-time Boston Marathon finisher. These coaches have got great credibility with the kids that they coach, and therefore can be mentors to them in addition to coaching them and bringing skills and camaraderie and fun like we'd expect at a practice. Our Sport Concierge program reaches out to individual athletes and their families to find out what are the challenges they're experiencing with accessing sport, and how can we help to solve those, to knock down those barriers. Sometimes this is to help access adaptive sport equipment. Very often it's training coaches and providing them with the support and ongoing technical assistance they need. And sometimes it's advocating with schools, like in this situation where we worked with a school system to get accessible transportation so Timmy could ride the bus to away games with the rest of his team. We've got great partnerships with groups like the Mass Commission for the Blind and Boston Children's Hospital, with whom we work on recruiting of new participants. We also work with the Mass Interscholastic Athletic Association to write rules for inclusion in high school sports. And we work with a number of the region's YMCAs to build adaptive and inclusive programs in their facilities. Over the past 5 years, 11 athletes have progressed to high school state championship level competition, and 8 have gone on to compete on college teams, such as these 2 here, Josh Winsper, who's a recent graduate of Bridgewater State University, and Katrina Gerhardt, who raced for the University of Illinois and is now a student at UMass Medical School. Last year, we served about 100 youth who have visual or mobility impairment, and that's about 10% of our target population here in Greater Boston. While we're pleased with that as an outcome, we're not satisfied. And we recognize that the participation numbers this year are likely to be down due to the COVID pandemic, but we feel really solid on track to get to 300 participants by 2022. One of the strategies that we will implement in order to make that happen is to bring Paralympic Sport Club programs to the north, south, and west of Boston, bringing opportunity for adaptive sports closer to home for more youth and their families. Adaptive Sports New England is seeking an investment of $600,000 over the next 2 years to fund our existing programs as well as our planned expansion. Central to our planned expansion is the hiring of 2 staff, a program director to oversee the sport club and a communications coordinator to improve and increase our athlete recruitment and outreach. This is Maddie Babcock, one of our superstar swimmers. Maddie's been with our program for 5 years. She's legally blind. And with the confidence and skills that she developed through our program, Maddie had the confidence to join her high school swim team as a freshman, immediately establishing for herself a group of friends to help her with the transition to school and ongoing navigation within the school and around classes. Maddie's a great student and attributes a lot of her success to participation in both school and Adaptive Sports New England sports. Sports have been played a really important role in my life. And I've really had an opportunity to benefit from them, whether it's as my baseball career came to a conclusion, moving on to learning to ski in college and to represent the United States at the Paralympic Games. I've made it my personal mission to ensure that this generation of youth has the same opportunity to benefit from sports as I did. And at Adaptive Sports New England, the way we do that is we focus on getting more kids to play more sports more often. And I'm inviting you to help us out with that. Thank you very much.
So thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. We at SIF have started brainstorming ways in which we can further showcase the work of our innovators and bringing their work to the forefront, just as we're doing today. And just a quick note that in addition to preparing their presentations, our innovators created a 4-page prospectus with more information about their work. And we'll send out links to the digital prospectuses in the follow-up email after this event. But if you registered for a hard copy, you should expect a prospectus in the mail in the weeks to come. And before I introduce the next presenter, I'd like to extend a few thank yous to people who have been working incredibly hard with the innovators to make sure that they received all of the support that they needed throughout this process. Their help and support was particularly needed, of course, during these challenging times. And I'm truly amazed that we are able to continue with our process and keep it very similar to years past, except for, of course, being virtual today. To begin, I'd like to thank our wonderful consultants who have worked tirelessly with our innovators. They started in January, they stayed calm, supportive and flexible, resourceful, and always extremely helpful on those many Zooms and Google Hangouts over these many months. I'd also like to thank our presentation advisors and pitch panelists and other folks in our network who helped our innovators prepare for today. Everyone was flexible and patient, but yet as excited as always to support our innovators. And our in-kind partners have been instrumental in supporting the presenters today, especially the Aerial Group and Liz Callahan in particular, who has spent so many hours online and on Zoom with our teams practicing. I'd also like to thank all those who volunteered on our nomination committee and evaluation committees who helped us select this cohort of amazing innovators. And finally, I'd like to acknowledge our executive coaches, many of whom who are actually here in the virtual audience today, and who will work with our innovators on the next stage of their SIF journey. And now I'd like to introduce our third innovator today, Vital Village Networks, on a track titled Nurturing the Whole Health of Children, Families, and Communities, supported by the Inspire Boston Funder Collaborative. Renee Boynton-Jarrett is the founding director of the Vital Village Networks. A pediatrician and social epidemiologist, Renee is an associate professor at Boston Medical Center and Boston University School of Medicine. Her scholarship has focused on early life adversities as life course social determinants of health. Renee is nationally recognized for her work on childhood trauma and community-based strategies to promote child well-being, and has received numerous awards for teaching, clinical care, and public health, including the Massachusetts Public Health Association Paul Revere Award for Outstanding Impact on Public Health and an honorary degree. Welcome, Renee.
Good afternoon. Thank you to the Social Innovation Forum, the Inspire Boston Funder Collaborative, and all of you who are here today. It's 1980, and we are the Love Bugs. Yours truly in the red dress, like all preschool classes, full of promise and potential. The following spring at our graduation, we interlaced fingers, rose and sang, "We are family," enunciating every syllable just as we had been taught. Because by this point, we were a family. It was my beloved preschool community and that led me to pediatrics and to Boston Medical Center's tradition of service as an anchor for community health. BMC recognized early on that context matters, that every child's health and well-being is strongly influenced by the families and communities in which they grow. Yes, it takes a village to raise a child, but it also takes a village to fail to protect and invest in a child's potential. Structural inequities are the root of many adversities that harm children's developing brains and bodies. So transforming outcomes for children requires changing systems. Did you know that in Massachusetts, 1 in 9 children is food insecure? 25,000 public students are homeless. Did you know that in 2014, we had the country's highest rate of reported child abuse and neglect? Not surprisingly, all of these factors worsen in neighborhoods with less economic resources. The problem is that medical practitioners, educators, social service providers, and community organizers typically work in silos. We know how to provide high quality healthcare and to provide a great preschool experience, but our silos make it nearly impossible to address systemic factors that undermine our well-intentioned efforts. So at Boston Medical Center, we asked a basic question. What would it look like for every child to have an opportunity to thrive in a healthy community? We, Vital Village Network, grew out of these conversations. We took the bold step to develop leadership capabilities of community residents and enhance existing efforts, as well as to strengthen connections and alignment across sectors. Vital Village Network at Boston Medical Center is a collaborative that builds the capacity of communities to improve well-being for children and families through collaboration, research, data sharing, training, and advocacy. Think about it. In the United States last year spent $3.6 trillion on healthcare. But science tells us what contributes most to health is where we live, learn, work, and play. Here's how we change systems. It all starts with belonging. We take a collaborative approach to recognize what is already working within communities and to co-create solutions with community leaders. Next, we promote collective learning through partnerships, shared data, dashboards that strengthen accountability, and research to ask new questions. As the saying goes, what gets measured gets done. Having the facts on neighborhood access to food, school readiness, and enrollment in early childhood education allow us to track and to improve progress over time. Finally, we convene networks designed to enable cross-sector engagement. Through these networks, community leaders share resources, innovations that help drive systemic change. The result is nothing less than transformation for individuals, families, and communities, with healthier outcomes from children. Of course, none of this happens overnight. It takes a village of collective activities working together for systemic change. And here's how. Giselle Cabrera joined our fellowship in community leadership and advocacy to become a family advocate for special needs education, the person she wished she had had to help her with her own children. She was paired with a mentor, connected to a partner organization, and became a leader for statewide bilingual parent trainings. Melody Cunningham joined our Breastfeeding Coalition, where she expanded her network, skills, and through workshops, volunteering, and mentoring. She's now a social entrepreneur providing lactation support to new parents. John King Jr. wanted to help other parents who also face child custody conflicts. Through social justice mediation program, he found the tools and the network of support to launch a family mediation business serving Boston's family court. Boston public school teacher Jeffrey Cipriani wanted to address the impact of trauma on his students' learning. He participated in our collaborative STRIVE program with the Child Witness to Violence Project, which stands for Supportive Trauma Interventions for Educators. And now he supports trauma-sensitive training for his colleagues. What these four leaders have in common is a lifetime of knowledge and wisdom to share, matched by a desire to serve. Vital Village's role is to provide advanced skills, tools, and connections, and a platform for greater community leadership. Moving beyond service delivery, we build sustainable capacity. Now, Vital Village is a small Boston-based network, but we are achieving impact on a local and national scale. Organizations across New England and across the country seek to emulate our collaborative leadership model. We've worked in more than 15 states and with over a dozen community coalitions. In 2019, we expanded partnerships, leadership development, impacting more than 2,800 children. We've had several independent evaluations that show our model works. Locally, more than 90% of partners report advanced trauma understanding, social emotional learning practices, leadership development, and data collaboration. Nationally, over an 18-month period, coalitions that worked with us reported increased racial equity practices by 65 to 75%. And over the past 7 years, we have raised and invested over $1 million in community social justice innovations, the innovators, and the collaborative learning, and stipending the champion leadership. COVID-19 pandemic has had a disproportionate impact on the communities we serve and on our partners, many of whom are essential workers. This makes our work even more vital. It's not that we don't know how to serve the community. BMC is already providing affordable housing and prescriptions for healthy food, but by working together, the natural next step is to partner with Vital Village to scale up these prescriptions for resilient communities that can remain resilient while socially distanced. Currently, our model costs about $400 per family annually. Adverse childhood experiences cost nearly $548 billion annually. We are an excellent return on investment. We are seeking a $1.5 million investment over the next 2 years so we can increase our staff, double our engagement of community leaders, double community service hours and volunteerism, serve many of the educators that we aren't able to serve with trauma-sensitive models now, and expand our service to more medical centers such as BMC, becoming a national thought partner for community hospital partnerships. For so long, we have focused on the resilient child, the love bug who made it. With your support, we can focus on resilient places. What would a just society look like for a child? A just society would provide equitable, flourishing opportunities so that all children can thrive. Thank you.
Renee, thank you so much for a fantastic presentation and for all of the work you and the Vital Village Network are doing for our community. Before we move forward, I'd like to mention our connection cards. If you want to connect with our innovators, maybe grab a virtual coffee with them, fill out a connection card and we'll pass it along to them. The link should be posted in the chat and will also be included in the follow-up email as well. Now, I'd like to introduce the final presenter for today, PAARI, the Police Assisted Addiction and Recovery Initiative on the track titled Addressing the Opioid Epidemic, supported by the Boston Open Impact. Allie Hunter, Executive Director of PAARI, is an internationally recognized subject matter expert, trainer, consultant, and speaker on policing in the opioid epidemic based in Massachusetts. Allie holds over 14 years of experience in nonprofit leadership, a master's degree in international development from Ohio University, and a certificate in nonprofit management and leadership from the Institute for Nonprofit Practice at Boston University's Questrom School of Business. Welcome, Allie.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Our world and our country are hurting right now. And honestly, I come into this presentation with a heavy heart. Especially given the nature of the work that I do, I feel like I need to start by saying that. Living with the coronavirus pandemic has been traumatic, and for many people struggling with a substance use disorder, it has meant a new sense of loneliness and more barriers to treatment and recovery. And we're also in the midst of a policing crisis. This has been a somber week. We have witnessed the tragic results and unjust loss of life that can occur, whether by action or inaction. And many of us, myself included, are trying to find our place in fostering healing and building a society where we treat one another with compassion and dignity. And what this difficult time has proven to me is that now more than ever, PAARI has a vital role to play in supporting police to imagine and create a better world. Just 5 years ago this week, after a series of overdose deaths, the Gloucester Police Department began to allow anyone to walk into the police station and be immediately taken into treatment. No arrest, no jail, no shame, no blame. To scale this idea and help other departments, PAARI was founded. And in 2016, I was the first person hired to lead the organization. PAARI is now a network of nearly 600 police departments nationwide. And we are leading a movement to innovate and change policing to give people struggling with addiction another chance. So I got into this because of my firsthand experience. This is a photo of my sister Nicole and I. Over her several year struggle with addiction, she was arrested multiple times. She survived over a dozen overdoses. And honestly, it still is hard not to choke up just a little bit when I think about what a tough period of time that was for my family. Even once she was ready for help, she experienced numerous setbacks: lack of insurance, lack of transportation, trouble finding an available bed, and a lot of stigma, and she fought for years to get help. I remember just how heartbreaking each of those missed opportunities were, and I wish she could have simply walked into a police station to get help instead of trying to navigate this broken system on her own. The human impact of the opioid epidemic is just tremendous. I'm sure many of you personally know someone that's been impacted. Maybe someone you love, maybe someone in your family. 89% of people who need treatment do not receive. 70% of people in jail right now have a substance use disorder. Each year in the US, there are 72,000 fatal overdoses. That's 1 every 11 minutes. And to give you an idea of the scale of that, that is more than the number of people at a sold-out game at Gillette Stadium. And the economic impact has also been staggering. There's been over $70 billion in lost productivity and foregone wages in Massachusetts alone since the year 2000. And this has all been exacerbated by COVID-19. People with substance use disorders are more vulnerable than ever. They're at greater risk for contracting COVID-19, and it's more likely to be severe for them. Relapse is on the rise. Overdoses are on the rise, and it's harder to get treatment than ever. Police officers have a front row seat. They're responding to overdoses and making drug arrests every day. They interact with this population on a regular basis, and because they are closest to the problem, they're in a really unique position to be able to help. In the past, the only way that police could respond was to arrest or incarcerate somebody. This leads to repeat drug use and repeat arrest, and it's expensive in terms of human and financial terms. And the arrest and incarceration cycle, it just repeats again and again, and it doesn't work. And police have come to realize that they cannot arrest their way out of this. So this is where we come in. With PAARI's help, police can now put people on a path to treatment and recovery and interrupt that cycle with a non-arrest alternative. This is more effective and more compassionate, and this results in individual and community health and well-being. So through PAARI, departments can establish their police station as a safe haven where people can walk in and get connected to treatment immediately. In addition to this walk-in model, we help officers to follow up with someone who survived an overdose or proactively visit someone who's at risk for future overdose. And officers now have the ability to make referrals to treatment through their routine encounters every day. We are reimagining and redefining what it means to be a police officer in America. The PAARI model has 3 components. Train. Despite the fact that most of their calls for service relate to addiction, traditional police training does not really focus on addiction at all. So we provide relevant training so police officers can better understand addiction and more effectively engage with and support people. Support. We work with each department to create a roadmap and develop a program that's tailored to their local needs. We also provide ongoing support to help departments with implementation. For example, we have an amazing capacity building program in partnership with AmeriCorps. Connect. We host an annual leadership summit and lead regular webinars so police can learn from public health professionals and learn from each other. So in this first photo here is one of our many trainings that we've provided to law enforcement on how to use Narcan, which is the medication used to reverse an opioid overdose. We've distributed more than 17,000 doses of Narcan to date. And as I mentioned at the start of my presentation, PAARI has also been extremely active in response to COVID-19. This second photo is an officer handing out masks. In March, we launched a new COVID-19 survival kit program in partnership with 11 police departments and 6 houses of correction. And just over the past couple months, we've distributed 2,800 survival kits, which contain Narcan and other life-saving tools. We have strong outcomes to illustrate that we're making a difference. First, we've supported more than 500 police departments, including more than 130 police departments in Massachusetts alone. Conservatively, this is upwards of 80,000 police officers that we've reached in total. Second, we've helped more than 26,000 people connect to treatment. The New England Journal of Medicine published a study that showed that 94.5% of people who sought support from our program were connected to treatment right away. In other words, with our training and support, police are actually very good at this. Third, PAARI is leading a national movement to change the perception of addiction and recognize it as a disease rather than a crime. We're working closely with lawmakers and many other leaders to shape public policy to expand access to treatment. And there is just a tremendous appetite for our support, and police are seeking us out. Police are hungry for the right tools and the right training to serve their communities in a meaningful way. And in just 5 years, PAARI has grown 500%. Police have reported up to a 40% reduction in crime since joining PAARI. And for these departments, trust in police has increased. And officer satisfaction has increased, as officers can now focus on helping versus arresting. Because ultimately, most officers have selected a career in law enforcement because they truly want to help people. And these programs allow them to do that. And as much as we've already accomplished, we know that we have so much more work to do. So looking ahead, our greatest need is to build organizational capacity so that we can keep up with the demand. Here's how we plan to grow. 1, we want to increase the number of police departments served from 580 to 1,500. 2, we want to enhance our training and education by creating an online curriculum. And this will allow us to better serve our existing partners and rapidly expand into new police departments. To accomplish these goals, we're seeking to increase our budget from $600,000 a year to $1.5 million a year, which means we'll need to raise an additional $900,000. This investment will allow us to reach 100,000 more police officers, which will result in better outcomes for tens of thousands of people with substance use disorders. They'll be diverted from the criminal justice system, they'll re-enter the workforce, and they'll be reconciled with their families. They'll not only be alive, but thriving. In addition to your financial support, and perhaps most importantly, I want you to share your personal story and the story of PAARI. As the stigma and bias towards people with a substance use disorder goes down, access to care will go up. And I want to make sure I say, if you or someone you love is struggling with addiction, please know that you are not alone. I have been there, and I know how difficult it is. I know how isolating it can feel. And if you aren't sure where to turn, please know that you can reach out to me. So going back to my sister, Nicole, in spite of the challenges that she faced, she is a success story. And I am proud to share that she has been in recovery for nearly 7 years. And today she actually works at a residential treatment center. This is a photo of her and her 2 sons, my amazing nephews. She is an example of how recovery is possible, and I'm so proud of her every day. Just like my sister Nicole, every single day, people are looking for help, and they're facing barrier after barrier. PAARI has a vital role to play, and with your help, we can grow this movement to save lives and ensure that everyone can receive the care that they need and they deserve. Thank you.
Ellie, thanks so much. Clearly in this day and age, everybody is wondering what we can do to support police in their learning. And it's phenomenal that you've been in there doing that work and will continue to be doing the work as well. Also to Renee and Joe and Musau, you are doing work in the communities with people who truly, truly need the support these days. So we are so appreciative of everything that all 4 of you are doing and that the change you're making and have been making for a long, long time. For everyone who's visiting and here on screen, we remind you to jump into the connection cards and please let all of the innovators know how you might be able to assist them. There's all sorts of ways to be a helpmate in this day and age. The links and people you can connect them with, and ideas and other people. I saw even in the chat room, are you working with so-and-so? Are you working with so-and-so? As much as you can help these groups forward would be so much appreciated by all of them, that their work is solid. They're
These dark times, it is inspiring to hear about the difficult but essential work you are doing. Do you think current affairs will open up even more communication for your program with police officers?
Yeah, thank you for that. I think it will. I mean, like I mentioned in my presentation, police recognize that what they've been doing in the past doesn't work, and they need new training and new ideas to be more effective and more compassionate. And the departments that we work with are really hungry to reimagine what they can do in their communities. And we certainly have already been having a lot of conversations about racial disparities in terms of treatment access. And not everybody is going to feel comfortable walking into a police station based on their past interactions and the kind of systemic trauma related to police interactions with people of color. So I think it will open it up even more. We do a training on power and privilege with police, and specifically white privilege. And I think that there'll be more interest in that training given the recent events. And so, I think it is, I try to be hopeful that I think this will be an opportunity for police to think more about what they can do and how they can grow and how they can learn about how to continue to support and better support their communities.
Great, I appreciate that, Allie, thank you. I am going to move to Renee. Renee, we definitely heard that you are doing a lot of different things and reliant on a lot of collaboration. So I am wondering, what are some of the biggest challenges you find in promoting cross-sector collaboration?
Thank you so much for that question. What I would say is trusting the process is probably the biggest thing when you're working cross-sector. Many people kind of come at things with different language, different training, different perspectives, different deliverables. And, to be honest, many service providers haven't worked intimately and followed the lead of families or community members. So it's a very different way of entering a partnership. It's a very different way of appreciating different forms of wisdom. And that requires an investment of time and trust building. I think people find it very rewarding, and it leads to sustainable long-term relationships and very different outcomes than you would have had working in silos. But it is taking that first step that can feel very uncomfortable. But obviously, if you just think about the state of the world that we're in right now, I think we all need to lean into new practices to promote a better future for our children.
Thanks, Renee. I think that sustainable long-term relationship piece is something we have in common. I'm going to jump to Joe from Adaptive Sports New England. Joe, how do Adaptive Sports New England programs differ from the Special Olympics?
Oh, good question. Special Olympics has a mission of focusing on improving the lives of individuals who have intellectual disabilities through sports, using sports as the tool. And so Special Olympics serves a different population than Adaptive Sports New England. We work in the realm of Paralympic sport, which is sports for individuals who have physical or mobility or visual impairments. So we serve different audiences, first off. Part of the difference there is that the population of individuals who have intellectual disabilities is much bigger than the population of individuals who have mobility or visual impairments, at least at a youth level. And so Special Olympics is able to have much more localized programs, many more programs at a more regionalized or localized level. Whereas with Adaptive Sports New England and our population, we're still to get the demand for our sport club program, we have to capture a bigger geographic area.
Great. Thanks, Joe, for that clarification. That's helpful. Musau, how are students recruited or referred to Origination? What's the process for getting engaged?
Oh, thank you for that question. There are so many ways to come into Origination. We have, through our community outreach and education program, we are partners with the Boston Public Schools. So we send staff to go and teach classes and workshops and performances. So after our performances, we get information from different kids, different parents, teachers. They all contact us to get more information about joining Origination. So one of our biggest feeders of Origination is the Boston Public Schools. And then it's a lot of word of mouth, and also the young people who started years ago, who now have children, are sending their children, and we do a lot of community work as well. So through all our performances around the city, around the state, we get a lot of connections. But our biggest fear is definitely the school system, where we reach hundreds and hundreds of schools a year.
Fabulous. Thank you, Musau. Allie, I'm going to circle back to you. What is the geographic reach of the 600 police departments you're working with, and how will you choose departments as you expand? Allie did a lot of traveling during her time with us, so I know it's a big reach, but you can give us a little more detail.
Yeah, sure. So the 580 police departments that we currently work with are in 34 states and a couple departments in Canada. So I would say if I were to pull up a map, you would see most of it is New England, Midwest. Like I said, it's 130 police departments in Massachusetts alone, mostly because I feel like that's where departments are aware of us. We do have, like I said, departments in 34 states, but some states where there's none at all, some where there's only one or two. So far, just based on having a really small staff, we actually haven't done a lot of marketing or recruitment, and every department that works with us has reached out to us. So really, they've self-selected to be part of PAARI by reaching out to us. And as we move forward, and especially as we have a better online training capacity, I think we're going to be reaching out to places more proactively and kind of inviting them to join us. Because many places are probably interested in this. They just don't know that there's an organization that could train and support them. And then there are many other departments that might be less interested in this. And if we can help plant seeds with them to open their interest in this, I think that would also be important. So it's a combination of who's interested, because there needs to be buy-in from the department for it to work. And then also kind of where the need is. But honestly, my hope, there's 17,000 police organizations in the United States. My hope is that 10 years from now, this is a standard policing practice, not something that, just a few percent of police departments have.
So Allie, I want to just jump on with one more thing, because Allie's working in 34 states, and I think, Allie, you're the only employee of PAARI. Am I right in saying that? So when we talk about helping Allie grow, I just want to mention that they're all our groups are small but mighty, but yeah. 34 states, and you can jump in there.
Yeah, no, thank you. We have a couple staff, I will say.
Okay.
So our kind of headquarters team is 3 staff and 1 AmeriCorps member. Our kind of broader team actually is about 25 people. So we have mostly AmeriCorps members embedded in police departments in 8 different states right now, either as recovery coaches or capacity building fellows. So those individuals are kind of trained and supported by PAARI, but they're out in the field, actually in police departments, embedded in what they do. Yeah, we're certainly hoping to grow both our headquarters staff and that AmeriCorps program to be able to support the work out in the field.
Great, thank you. I'm speaking of sharing your model widely. Renee, we have a question for you about how do you share your model with other states, with other outside of Massachusetts?
Great. We have a small team that can take on a couple of partnerships with outside coalitions on a one-by-one basis. Usually that's through a series of conversations that we have around some of the goals that they're setting. And we have several tools that we use to help them plan and move to action in ways that they can incorporate better equity-based strategies and ways that they can operationalize and actually utilize equity approaches in collecting data and tracking outcomes. We also have a national innovation forum called the Now Innovation Forum. So many people can reach out and utilize curated resources, the blogs, the learnings, podcasts, and webinars that are all freely available and featured there. And then finally, we've supported a learning community, which included 10 community coalitions across the country. And so that was a more intensive experience over 18 months with those 10 coalitions. So there are 3 different ways.
Fabulous. Thank you, Renee. Joe, this question opened with what a wonderful concept. I am curious if there's a peer organization doing similar work in other parts of the state, or if you hope to be that group one day. I know we talked a little bit about geography and the challenges there, and maybe you can expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. There aren't any other groups that are working with our the sports that we work with, and there aren't any who do the types of outreach that we do with the sport concierge or the policy work that we do with our partnerships. There certainly are other sport club programs. In New England, there's about 20 of them that run different types of programs, but none of them are focused exclusively on kids who have physical and visual impairments. And so none of them really, most of them are more lesson based in terms of if you want to learn how to learn how to ski, you can go and take ski lessons. Or if you want to learn how to sail, you can go and take sailing lessons. But there are only a few other sport clubs, and we don't overlap with sports. So we're working hard to collaborate with all of those other organizations to ensure that we're reaching, we're giving the young athletes the most choices to find a sport that they love and that they want to pursue. And we've got great relationships with those other organizations. There's only a few in Massachusetts and another few up in the mountains and across northern New England. One other one down in Hartford, Connecticut.
Great. Thank you, Joe.
Yep.
Musao, can you give a few examples of how you're teaching sort of life skills and sort of those broader soft skills? I got to participate in a dance class, so I know how you're teaching that.
Sure, thanks for that question. We use the arts, reel in the young people and really look at these skills that they'll need to be successful. So we do a lot of poetry, for example. They have to memorize the poems. They have to recite them in front of hundreds of people. They have to speak clearly. So we're working on effective communication skills for when they go on an audition or for an interview. And we have students who assist in teaching the classes. So they're responsible for taking attendance, for leading the students to the restrooms, for answering the phones in a professional manner, for checking costumes, for doing inventory. So we're learning how to organize. We have students who run the classes who actually teach dance, and they have to be prepared. They have to know what is the outcome of what I'm about to do with these young people. They have to know and be educated on what they're about to teach. So it's all these things that combined help them be more marketable and be more ready for life. We also look at even resumes. We have our 9-year-old and 10-year-olds in our companies building a resume, because in 9 years they have lived a long life and they should be able to put that down on a piece of paper. So by the time they graduate from high school, they're already understanding what the purpose of a resume is. Because there are a lot of skills that when they come into Origination, they don't know, or they don't have, or they're not learning in school. So by intertwining all of this with dance and with theater, they don't realize how much they're learning until they graduate, go to college, or wherever their professional life takes them, and come back and they realize, oh, that's why you had me stand in front of the class and say my name and remember this poem and understand what the poem is about. So we're also doing a lot of critical thinking as well.
Fabulous. That's a great idea about the resume at 9 years old. It's not
Yes.
intimidating then. I know when you get older, a resume can be a very nerve-wracking thing to do.
Yes.
Let's see, I'm back to Allie. Allie, how do you plan on using the funds that you're hoping to raise to support your growth? A little more specifically.
Yeah, so the two big things are growing our organizational capacity and building our online training program. So I think two positions is what we would hope to add, a development manager and a training manager. And that will allow us not just to expand, to reach more departments, but also to better support and better train our current members. So increasing our staff capacity to allow us to grow and to work more deeply with our partners. And then also, like I said, building that online curriculum. So right now when a police department joins PAARI, again, being kind of the only person at the organization that does this, we work really intensely with them one-on-one, and we're going to be able to work with departments much more efficiently and leverage our tools much better if we are able to have some online training as well. So building out that online training platform so that departments can have better training at various levels is the other big thing we'd want to do. And someone mentioned this in one of the questions too, but I'll just touch on it here. We're developing two curriculums, one that would be, actually three, one for command staff, so kind of chiefs and executive leaders within a department, also for patrol officers, and then another training for cadets or incoming police officers, so that this is, again, part of their standard training that they would receive before they become a police officer, ideally.
Great. Thank you, Allie. I appreciate that. Renee, can you say a little bit about your plans to expand to gateway cities?
Yes. So the supportive trauma interventions for educators, the STRIVE program, is led by the Child Witness to Violence Project and was designed in collaboration with us in Boston Public Schools. As you know, with COVID-19, there is a lot of collective trauma that communities are experiencing in addition to recent events. So for educators, often it's not included in your traditional preparation or pedagogy. How do you address the impact that trauma can have on learning and children's ability to actually even be present to engage in materials, their behaviors, their focus, their attention, their memory. So this is something that we've always had a high demand for. We have a higher demand than we could meet in the past, and now we have an even higher demand. But during the COVID-19 period, some of these trainings for educators have been occurring virtually via webinars. We're working on a few additional designs, ways to have more intimate learning experiences as well as ways of engaging parents and caregivers to support their ability to support their children during this period as well. So right now we will be following what is a plan that's already taken place. The Child Witness to Violence Project was funded by an award from the AGO to expand to throughout all of the regions of Massachusetts, all 7 counties, to provide this training for early childhood educators. So we'll be following a very similar type of model to reach out to public schools in in Massachusetts gateway cities. So we're hoping that the experience over the past 2 years will help guide us as we go to the next step.
That's great, Renee. Lots of need in the gateway cities there. So I have a question that came in for Joe, but I think I'm actually going to start with Joe and then ask the same question to each of you. So you worked to develop your pitch and perspectives over the past 5 months. Would you be able to share like an aha moment or a learning that you had during this time?
Oh, wow. Okay.
So Joe, I don't have to put you on the spot. I could ask someone else if someone wants to volunteer to go first.
Sure.
Now, you know, I think that perhaps the aha moment came just in the last couple of days. as you know, there's pressure to put on a show here and develop this pitch and prospectus. And when we got back down to writing the prospectus and putting in all the work, and eventually coming back and saying, but this is what we write about all the time. And realizing that, you know, really the work that we've been doing here, and even though we've formalized it in ways that we hadn't done before, and that's really valuable to us, both for the process as well as the product, the work is all the same, and that was really rewarding to see. So.
Great, thanks, Joe. Musao, you look like you had something.
I have so many things, just learning about my co-innovators. It's just been an amazing experience. And also just understanding how much we have in common as executive directors, that we're all trying to make our communities better in one way or another. My aha moment was, really understanding just how much our work is needed. Like we are all on different tracks, and we're helping different parts. But I'm like, wait a minute, but it all comes back to the same thing about really improving humanity and how we live and how we exist as a community. And so that was kind of my one of my many aha moments, was humanity. Great. And how we survive in that.
Thanks for sharing that. And I think that's such an important point you bring up about being executive directors together and having peers in this together, sharing the work. And Allie, do you want to share an aha moment?
I don't know if I'm going to frame it as an aha moment.
That's okay.
But yeah, I mean, this has been a really great process, like such a different time than I would have anticipated a year ago when we put in our first application to be part of this cohort, and so much more meaningful to have these colleagues and to have the care and support of the consultant and the Social Innovation Forum team. So I think the most helpful thing has just been to have everybody as sounding boards and share the perspectives and to think about framing the work in new ways. Even like for me, I was working on this like last night with new developing things I felt like I needed to say. And so it's been good to have this process to kind of anchor things. And so I guess I will just share that.
Thanks, Allie. Renee, I'll give you the last word here.
I think, you know, to be honest, when I entered the cohort, you kind of have this, you know, this vision of what that arc is going to look like, what the next 2 years are going to look like. So when we were all standing on that stage in December, COVID was not even a twinkle in anyone's eye. At the same point in time, I think for all of us in different ways, our work is really addressing inequities that lead to different types of isolation and social exclusion. It's common across all of our work. So during this period, we've all been working so hard and following the lead of the communities that we're serving, their ideas, making space and room for what they're hoping to see come to life. And I think it's been beyond my wildest dreams to actually have the gift of being in a cohort during this time. It wasn't in the arc of the plans. This was all going to be more of a rah-rah time. But then to have a cohort during a time where, you know, there's a lot of uncertainty. It absolutely means something different. And I think it has helped. I know for me, it's helped me be present and show up with my team, with the community partners that are vital, and to keep children and their well-being centered during a very difficult time.
Thank you, Renee. I think that's beautifully said. And I want to appreciate all of you for your amazing hard work during a really difficult time. And I'm glad we had a chance to chat, because we don't usually have that at the showcase. So thank you all for that. I'm going to pass it back to Susan to close us out, but just very much appreciate all of you and your time and your energy and your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carolyn, thank you so much, and thank you for handling all the Q&A, and I think to our innovators here, really, really amazing work, and your ability to pivot and stay with the program and stay with your cohort. I think for people who are online today, they may have seen the other 4, but I think even to divide you into two cohorts when you're really such a team has been hard for us, but I think that I think most of the groups are on to support you. I want to pull out one theme that I think, Renee, you said at the end, which is about isolation. And I think you're all working with people who are often isolated and needing support in their lives. And I think everybody understands isolation maybe better than they did a few months ago. And to understand that the lack of community and that the lack of support and the lack of connection actually makes life tougher in so many ways, and that we get used to those kind of supports on a daily basis. And when they go away, mental health and many other struggles tend to emerge. And so for all of you that are continuing to do such important work and have been able to pivot your work and your participation with us, we say a huge thanks. To those of you who are in the audience, we really appreciate your being with us. We hope you'll figure out how to get on those connection cards and partner and let these groups know how you can help them. And to the SIF team, huge thanks for your continued work and ability to really pivot and bring us all together in a whole new format to really share the great work that's happening in so many different pockets of this community and get that work out in a broader way. And I think, as we say, you all who are our innovators are our hope, and the hope that we will go forward in ways that are stronger and brighter for the community in a tough time